for watching Afternoon Live. In a new study out of Ohio State University, researchers found that parent and children's mental health concerns are linked to parental burnout. So here with tips to help parents cope, we welcome back personal growth strategist and author of Build Your Village, Florence and Romano. It's great to see you.
Hi, my friend. Always good to see you. Always so fun.
This is a hot topic. I mean, we know that parents are burned out, so it's kind of how do we best support ourselves and move forward to help our kids too, right?
I can hear parents just saying to me right now, of course we're burned out. Tell me something I don't know, Florence Ann. But it's true. I mean, burnout is kind of that it permeates. It's that ripple effect. So you think that it's maybe just isolated to you, but you don't realize how it's spilling out kind of to everyone else in your life, in your village, in your community, and especially your children. You know, I was having an interesting conversation today with some people about how when I was in school long ago, I never wanted to miss school because I was so worried about having to catch up. I would go to school with the flu. And, you know, today I think it's a little bit different, you know, with how things are hybrid and it's just the school system is different. But as a kid, when you're in school, you're doing so many things. There's so many obligations or extracurriculars, and it's great to have kids very involved and very busy, but they burn out too, the same way adults do. And I can't imagine going back to the cadence I had as a child. I could never have that energy again. But I think that when parents are also running in that hamster wheel and expending all that energy, that is also overflowing onto their children energetically, and then also sometimes not intentionally with parents as they're trying to figure out what's the right way to make sure my child is involved, included, and engaged. And sometimes it goes too far.
It's so much pressure. It's so much to manage. And as you say that, I think about, challenging seasons I've had with my children. I can think back and look at where I was at, and I probably wasn't my best mom in that moment, and it's just all connected. So we're gonna take some pressure off, right, and kind of lower some expectations because, especially I think with social media, we're kind of guilty of comparing ourselves too much sometimes.
We are as adults, and children do it too. I was actually at a meeting here in Chicago. I live in Chicago at Lurie Children's Hospital here earlier today, and we were talking about mental health with children specifically and how social media affects them, and how when children go to the emergency room with some sort of mental health crisis, oftentimes they are talking about social media and things that are going on in kind of that space and how it's influencing them. And so, of course, as a child, you would think it's hard to explain that they can't look at what they're seeing and take it seriously or think it's reality or explain kind of, how it can mess with your mind. How can we explain to children how, social media can be damaging when as adults, we have a hard time being able to discern that for ourselves and what that does to our own mental health? And so this is this delicate line that we really walk as adults who have real feelings about what we are digesting, ingesting, and environmentally, and also how children are reacting to that as well. We're all very vulnerable to this.
Yeah, it's a lot to manage, and it's new, right? A lot of us are parenting now in the social media age, and we're experiencing it as adults for the first time too. Let's talk about activities. And how do we kind of walk, like you said, that fine line of sports and extracurriculars offer so much to our kids, but if we overdo it, then they're not really getting those benefits out of it.
Sometimes it's saying no that day to practice. The day is too full. I think we've talked before on the show about quiet quitting, how parents were using that terminology, that it wasn't for corporate America. It was applying a corporate America phrase to parenting, that they were going to quit having to compare themselves all the time, quit having to say yes to everything, quit the guilt, quit the expectation, all of that. And I think that as we make our calendars this kind of cobweb that we have to sift through, and it's kind of icky and sticky sometimes, we're realizing that it's not the things that bring us joy that we're necessarily compiling in our calendar. And that's usually where the burnout happens. It's because you're not doing enough things that are filling up your cup, that are satiating you, that are nourishing you, that are recharging you. So that is applying to adults and also to children. So it's really quantity versus quality. Find out the things that really do bring your children joy and let them be involved in that instead of 10 different activities, and thinking that, again, the quantity of that is somehow going to, again, satiate them or also distract them maybe from what you're hoping you're distracting them from.
Sure, that's a great perspective on that. Hey, let's talk about releasing the guilt and asking for help when you know that you need it, but it's just hard to ask sometimes.
I always say that I think the number two thing, or maybe even number one, tied, that is the hardest thing for people to do in life: public speaking and asking for help.
Ugh.
These two things, very difficult. And asking for help tends to be difficult because we think if we ask you, then we're going to have this debt that we owe you, because you picked my kids up from school, or you dropped dinner off at my house, or, you did that favor for me when I was in a bind. And then you have anxiety over having to repay that and this tit for tat. And that's not what village building is. That's not community building. If you're in a relationship like that with people where you're constantly worried that you're not showing up for the people the same way they are for you, then that's probably not the healthiest environment. There's a big difference between never showing up for somebody and taking advantage of all the kindness that's shown to you, and understanding that there's always going to be an ebb and flow, that it's not always going to be equal. I may be in a season of life that I need a lot more support than you do, so you're able to show up in that way for me. But at some point, it's probably going to turn. The tables are going to turn, and I'm going to be able to repay that kindness to you. But I'm not sitting there worrying about when that's going to be and if I'm going to lose the friendship because I'm not doing what I think they need right now.
I love that. Great perspective. Hey, thank you so much. It's always great to chat with you.
Thank you. So good to see you.
You too. The book again is Build Your Village, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.